detective, thrill me.
Another week, another episode, another remake.
Mm-hmm.
Gents.
This is what happens when you go on holidays, mate.
Yeah.
You just get lazier and lazier. There's another movie to call. This is We'll just watch that too.
Yeah, so you guys covered the original. I heard what you had to say. I will give my feelings very briefly on the original. Haven't seen it in a little while. I'm with Maddie. It's a 4-star affair for me.
Ooh.
It's really, really well done. I think it's super stylish. Yes, I agree with you. It's slow. It's very slow. But when it hits the actual... It builds to that massive explosion of her rage, and that works. So I like it a lot.
Nice use of the word rage, mate. In reference to Carrie too.
Yes, the rage. Yeah.
It wasn't an accident, was it?
That's the only one.
watching it.
That's the only one you've got to watch left, buddy.
Not watching
It's
it.
got to be somewhere. You got to check it out.
It's got to be better than the TV.
I saw it years ago.
Yeah, it's not great.
No, it's not good.
Yes, it's not good. But before we get into any of that, let's do an up or down. Now, recently a trailer, it was probably about a month ago, was it? Or no, it was Super Bowl.
Yep.
Super Bowl. They gave out sort of like a teaser thing of the new Stephen King series, TV series called Castle Rock. I'm up because this stuff I think is not from his actual books. Is that correct?
No,
It's
I think it's
the
original.
universe based
total
on.
universe.
Yeah.
Super up on it. It hasn't given away much,
No.
but it looks kind of creepy, and this is just the measure of the man. He's got so much work and so much great stuff that they can take the fictional town he created and turn it into something totally different, like not connected to his books, but within that universe. And that shows what a effect he's had on horror and storytelling over the last 25 years. I truly believe he's the most influential novelist we've had in the last 30 or 40 years.
Definitely, especially if you go down
Very hard to
horror.
argue.
Yeah, especially you talk about horror. I like it. But even like you talk about, you're probably looking at like the J.K. Rowlings and stuff like that. But I don't put that in the same.
No, not even.
No, different.
Like she's touched.
She's very good, like she's good as well, but I'm talking about he has had a long career.
That's what I mean. I wouldn't put her in the same ballpark as him. But
Yeah, and
she's probably one of the bigger ones.
Yeah,
sure.
and she's only had she has had a niche, and it's a good niche. Like she is a very good writer too. Like there's no doubt about it. But he's just got this. My brother summed it up. We were talking about the fact that he's actually mentioned in himself in his own books a couple of times, and as my brother was saying, that is the only the most famous of famous could do that. And get away with it and not come off as a wanker. Like people going, oh, what sort of tool would put himself in his own book?
He's the master of his craft.
Kanye West.
Master of his craft, definitely the king of horror.
But it's a big up for
Kong
me.
of horror, if you will.
Kong. That's right, the Kong of horror.
Kong of horror. It's a big up for me.
Yeah.
Big up. And I don't know how long before it comes out. Does it come out mid-year maybe?
I think so, yeah.
I saw that and I just thought, not only is it a testament to how good Stephen King is, but how lucky are we to be sort of watching TV at a time where there's independent, like your Netflixes and your Hulus, I think what's this one?
Yeah, Hulu, this one, yeah.
That have got a budget that are making this niche stuff.
Yeah.
That might not necessarily get everyone in, but it's quality television. It's not that same churned out rubbish that's going to appeal to the majority. I felt really lucky to be able to watch something. I can't wait for it. Looks great.
Yeah.
Production values look good.
It's nice to have an escape from Married at First Sight.
Oh, fucking hell.
It's scary.
Don't even start.
We just bought a 55-incher for the bedroom, so Riley could just leave me alone in the living room, and I don't have to watch it anymore. I can't be subjected to that fucking dribble anymore.
No.
So you're right, Matty. Your sentiment is
Spot on,
echoed
mate.
strongly over here, mate.
Yeah, good.
And the thing about these streaming services, they're allowing them to get away with more. You can go in any direction you want.
Yeah.
You can add as much violence or sex or whatever you want.
If people click on it, then they'll keep making good stuff.
And to me, you don't get some of this stuff on free-to-air television.
Well, you
like
can't-
HBO started it with a lot of that.
Yeah.
Even going as far back as something like Sex and the City, where that wasn't on free-to-air television, that was on cable, and it was touching on subjects that you probably couldn't have got away with on free-to-air specifically until later at night. But then they started building on that.
Yeah, Sopranos.
And then you just got bigger and bigger. Now you're finding so much good television that's nowhere near the free-to-air stuff.
Well, as soon as that, once you're being paid for cable and it's the cable company doing it, you're cutting out the advertisers. So you're not getting someone saying, hey, we'll give you $1 million and put our car commercials on here for 30 seconds, but you can't have any boobs or you can't have any violence.
Yeah,
that's right.
You don't do that anymore. It's just like we're paying you direct and you're saying, all right, well, this might work. So I'm definitely a big up because, I mean, he's been doing this shit in his books for years. Like, I've read Carrie to try and sort of get into what was different with the book and that sort of thing. And in there, you're getting mentions of Teddy Duchamp or whatever from Stand By Me. And it's like, he's just done this in every single book you read. You get this,
references, music references as well.
So he's been crossing his stuff over in his books for years and created this. So it was kind of a natural extension for someone to go, fuck, why don't we do that on TV? So, but I'm happy to see, they're going to be original stuff. The other thing about the trailer is it gives you nothing bar a reference of Shawshank, but then they show, the person in Shawshank being the guy that played it, and you just can't help but think, that's not a coincidence, there's something here, and then Sissy SpaceX in it, and you're like, yeah, I'm in. How are we going to do this? I just want to see it.
Stupid fake holes.
But the other thing for me is that Kevin Smith's offsider that he does the podcast with, Mark Bernardin, who I've mentioned a lot here, he's actually one of the writers.
Oh, really?
And I've got a lot of respect for what he sort of puts out as, he often comments on current films and what he liked about them and what he didn't, and I think he's got a really good sense of storytelling, so I'm interested to see what he can do.
What about JJ?
I like the guy, but I never got into things like Lost. So I'm definitely an up because he knows how to make quality stuff, and he's overseen stuff like Cloverfield, which I think is one of the better examples of creativity out there in Hollywood at the moment, that we're making these movies that sort of have nothing to do with each other. The characters don't cross over, but the universe is together, and we're going to tell a story that way. I'm all for that, so I think he's definitely a good addition.
I was just listening to him talk about The Wire on Zach Lowe's podcast.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He's written this book about it, and I don't know. I don't know a lot about what he's done.
Nah, different dude.
Is that J.J. Abrams?
No, that's Jonathan Abrams.
Oh, well, there you go. Excellent.
Sergio Abrams.
I was like, I bring ignorance
to that podcast.
at a new
I'm
level.
pretty sure it wasn't J.J. Abrams.
Just to bring it back, though, I'm definitely buying that book.
Yeah, it does.
He's a great writer.
Yeah.
He's the dude that does all the oral histories on Grantland and the Rio. So he did the oral history of the 86
I'm
Houston
sure
Rockets.
that nobody
the
that's
dunk contest
listening
history.
had the same preconceived ideas that I had. Good.
But the bottom line for me is someone like
He's a J. Abrams.
He gets around. So I'm thinking, what the fuck's he doing on Zach Lowe's podcast?
That's what I was thinking. Hang on, I'll listen to that.
Is this another M. Night Shyamalan situation? We're going to tell him about
J.J. Abrams too is somebody that
Isn't on Zach Lowe's podcast.
no, he's not on Zach Lowe's podcast, but he's also. I mean, I never got into Lost or anything either. But the fact is, the guy obviously has a pretty good handle on producing some of this stuff. So he's going to be somebody who looks after it, material. He's not just going to go, I'm just chucking my name on this shit and we'll walk away. I mean, King's chucking his name on it and walking away.
He's cashing checks.
King has forgotten about what his name's on. I mean, essentially, the bloke's cinematic output is now 40 plus years.
Yeah.
He's probably forgotten half the stuff he wrote, to be honest. The situation.
Well, through the 80s, he was coked to the eyeballs and didn't remember
churning out some quality. Don't worry.
And I believe he's also in, I think it's in On Writing, which is his book that's kind of semi-autobiographical,
which is excellent.
Advice on writing.
Yeah,
and there's a line in there that's talking about, writing shit, when you get caught into traps and write some real shit. And he goes, as the author of Maximum Overdrive, I'm qualified to talk on the subject.
Yeah, I just think he is in a renaissance period again. He's back again, and he's shit that's been he previously had has been remade, and then TV shows are churning out.
The fact that his stuff is still as relevant as it is, even stuff like Stand By Me, you go back and watch that, and it's very much a period piece, but you watch it and it's still an unbelievable movie. He's
if you put together, he's known as the master of horror, but if you put together his your favorite, in my personal favourite Stephen King movies.
All dramas.
A bunch of them are, the Dolores Claiborne, Shawshank, Stand By Me, Green Mile. They're not horror.
Misery's not even horror.
Misery's another one.
A thriller.
He's just, but then you put the horrors in there, and it's just takes it to another level. Both it's.
But there's so many. There's still a few gems that haven't even been looked at.
Gerald's Game was.
Yeah, Gerald's Game
years.
Yeah,
and people didn't want. People said it was unfilmable, and then somebody went, "Oh fuck." Everyone's got an option on Stephen King except Gerald's Game. We better have a crack at that, and there you go.
Is that the one with where she's tied up in
the bed? Yeah.
I saw the trailer for that.
Really good, really, they did a really good job.
She had a heart attack or something, and she's sort of stuck there.
She's stuck there. It's really good. But things like one of my favourites is that from a Buick 8. Yeah. Which is kind of like a supernatural, but mixed with a coming of age, and I loved it. Yeah. And the supernatural stuff was, to me, background. Just the coming of age stuff was phenomenal, and I think that's what makes him such a great writer.
Well, as I said, I think last week I said it to you guys that The Long Walk hasn't been done either.
Yeah.
That was one of his oldest books, and it's fucking awesome. And no one's done that. Like, he's just got such a depth of work to go with.
I love the fact that his short stories, some of his key short stories, like The Lawnmower Man, gets a gig somehow.
And then the movie's nothing like the book.
Yeah, but the book was garbage.
So was the movie.
The movie was bad, but at least it made some sort of sense. The short story was just about some dude who nudes up and starts mowing some guy's lawn.
I think it's even science fiction, The Langoliers or something like that.
Yeah, like he's got this
all over the place.
weird mixture of stuff. Yeah, Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, you're plumbing the depths there, Jim.
Not a good book.
I haven't read The Langoliers, but the movie was fucking shit. Series, sorry.
All right. Oh yeah, you're up on it? You're up.
I've already gibbered on enough, but yeah, I'm up on it. So.
Well, we all just bloody,
chimed in, really.
Yeah. For 10 minutes, we've gone on about how great the bloke is, so I think it's fair to say we're all up.
I don't want to say anything else. I'm going to sound like an idiot.
That might be the best time we've had yet, though.
Yeah, keep your fucking shit to yourself.
I think I'm 3 for 3.
All right. Anything basketball related, I feel like... I can't wait for the next
one. If you feel you're on unstable ground...
that Michael Jordan was great in Black Panther, He's still looking pretty fresh at 55 years old. It looks like he could still play.
Brian Russell must be really upset when he sees his successes. Next time, just give us all like a glance, like, am I on the right track here? And we'll be like, no.
Look, when I say hello, Mr. Thompson, and step on your foot, you'll know you're off base. Stop talking, please. All right, well let's get into the trailer. 2013 remake of Carrie.
Yay!
Carrie, do you understand what's happening to you? If I concentrate, I can make things move.
You're a witch. You know the devil never dies. He keeps coming back. There will be a judgment at Carrie.
Carrie, rated R, October 18th.
Carrie from 2013, directed by Kimberly Peirce, who did Boys Don't Cry. Produced by Judy Bell, J. Miles Dale, and Kevin Misher. Kevin Misher was producer of The Scorpion King and The Rundown, or Welcome to the Jungle.
So he's a fan of The Rock. Then.
Yes. Right. Written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who did the Town Dreaded Sundown remake. And I think he's involved in Riverdale. And I think he might have been involved in Glee previously.
Town That Dreaded Sundown was alright.
Yeah, it was alright. It was interesting the way they did it. And obviously it's based on the novel by Stephen King. It stars Chloe Grace Moritz as Carrie White, Julianne Moore as Margaret White, Ansel Elgort as Tommy Ross, Gabriella Wilde as Sue Snell, and Portia Doubleday as Chris Hargensen. Budget of $30 million and a box office of about 85 worldwide. Charlene Woodley turned down the role of Carrie.
Good.
And while Hayley Bennett, Emily Browning, Lily Collins, and Bella Heathcote auditioned, and Hayley Steinfeld was also considered for the role.
Hayley Steinfeld would have been alright.
I'll get into that a little bit later about that trivia, because there's a dislike I've got about that whole casting. for me.
Or girls, you want to see a boy take the role?
No. Gibbo, thoughts?
It's easily one of the best horror movies ever made.
Was it you who said credibility was slipping?
No. So I actually, when I first watched it when it came out, I saw the trailer for it and I was really keen. I thought, like, this is a fucking cool thing to reboot now. Like, with the effects and things, they could probably do a lot better with it. When I watched it back then, I thought it was pretty good. Watching it very soon after watching the original, it's jarring how much of it's just a note by note, just a recreation of the original movie, which isn't a good way to do it. You need to bring something new to the table. So yeah, definitely when I first watched it, I actually liked it a lot, and then this time, not anywhere near as much. There's a couple of bits in there that I really like, but you'd have to probably give the original, even though I didn't really like it that much either, you'd probably give it the nod just because it's at least original. This one just feels like it's not quite Beauty and the Beast copy, because that felt like a movie you didn't even need to watch. If you'd seen the original, you'd seen this one, and this is very similar. Obviously, production and stuff with the FX is better, but you still got to give the original props. So I'd probably only go with like a 2 for this one.
Jared?
And you liked it more than everyone else in the room.
Well, the first time I watched it, it was a lot better.
Had you seen the original at that point?
Oh, ages ago. But just watching him like back to back, you're just like, holy shit, this is just a carbon copy.
Yeah. You pick up on all those little things that are just straight out.
Yeah, like the little specific lines that they say at the exact same time.
Yeah.
The shower scene at the start, like all of that
The
stuff.
lights shattering. They could have done something.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's I don't know if I disliked the movie. I still liked it. It's still, Stephen King's material. It's still good material.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at it through that lens of we just watched the other one,
It crushes it.
it's not even close. Like it's there's a couple of things that they try to go with to make the point of difference, and they all fall flat. As you said, you're watching parts of it just saying, yeah, we've seen this, and anything that we wanted to see that was, any changes that you could make or anything new you brought to the table either didn't go far enough or they just didn't work. So it's probably a 2.5. Because as I said, I still enjoyed it. I still like Stephen King. I still like the material, but it just, probably 2.5 is fair, I reckon.
Yeah, I think I was just too committed to the original to enjoy this at all.
Yeah, you were very much comparing.
It was the same movie, but had like no laughs in it from the original. So it was just a drag until you got to the violence, and then that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, the way they did that bit at the end was good.
But it felt a bit for Stephen, so I guess we'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, so for me it was a 1.5.
You definitely weren't saying, I liked it.
Yeah, totally agree with all of you. I think that for me, it's well acted and it's well made in terms of you can see the money, but it has absolutely zero difference from what the original had. And De Palma, it was dripping with style.
Yeah.
And this one is just by the numbers, as generic as it can possibly be. It's directed with no flair, with nothing. And I think the characterizations, for the most part, are fucking terrible. Except for the only person who... There's two actors who I feel... And nobody's super, super bad. Like, I think Chloe Moretz is fine.
Yeah.
I've got a dislike on her, but it's not about her performance. Julianne Moore kills it. I think she's absolutely fantastic because she's down a few notches to Barbara Laurie, and there's all these weird ticks to her.
Let's not go too deep into it. We've got the lights coming, mate.
But and I thought Ansel Elgort was pretty good too. But other than that, it just feels like a sort of a why, because you didn't do anything new with it, and it was right for a remake.
Yeah.
But you did nothing to make it worth coming back for.
Yeah.
It's as close as the worst type of remake is something like Cabin Fever or Psycho, which basically does it for the down exactly the same. But this is the next level of bad remake.
It's not one of those
it just doesn't come anywhere with anything.
The remake of it made sense because the production values were so poor in the original that it made sense. Let's remake it. Let's give it a bit of a spice, and it'll be a much better movie.
Plus,
It's all person based. It's all, the whole thing is about the interrelationships with the people, and how they are sort of, they do a mean thing, but they're not necessarily dislikable people on the most part.
Fucking some of them are. Jeez.
On the most part. And then so it just they've got much less room to move with what they've produced and what was already there. So it just didn't match up.
You needed some point of difference, as you say. They tried to get a couple of points, but they didn't work.
After having seen the 2002 pilot, though, it would have been a 4.5 if I'd only seen the pilot.
Yeah.
And it is like a good example because it's such a it's a huge book.
Yeah.
So there's different ways to take it. There's things to leave in or leave out, and they did certain scenes differently and to different effect, and used like adults differently from both movies.
Yeah.
Carrie's, having picked up the book during the week to get a bit of context on it, it's 230 pages.
Yeah.
Right. So and what's in the movies is pretty close to what's in the books.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of extra. There's some extra, and it was trimmed pretty well. The stuff that was left out was, pretty well. There's good reason
Should
to
have
do
been
it.
left out, yeah.
But it's really hard to find anything to really beef it up.
Yeah.
So personally, I reckon they should have got in touch with Mr. Kong and said, do you have any interest in adding something to this and modernising? Do you have anything we can use?
Yeah.
When you take his first book as the Bible,
Yeah.
the first book he's ever written as the Bible,
And the thing
surely he'd have some different ideas.
Yeah, and he wrote that in 1974, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
The movie was 74, yeah. Or 76.
76 was the movie. And I think the book was like 74.
75.
Yeah, so I would say to him, do you have any interest in...
And the thing about
He'd
King
be
is,
saying, no, I've got enough money.
Yeah.
the thing about King though is he would have been open to that.
He would have.
He would
Because
have
he's
been open to
always been
discussing
open to...
what that might.
He'd
have
always been
entailed.
open to getting involved
Yes.
in people that want his input in the movie.
And I just find that this feels like it's a property that has some cachet. It's got a bit of name.
Yeah, definitely.
It's ripe. It's ready. It's 30 years later or whatever. We're ready to do it again. And then nobody proceeded to say, look at the script and say, well, what are we doing differently here?
I think they made some honest attempts to explain some of the stuff that didn't make sense in the original. And watching this one, there was some that were like, oh, that was actually pretty good. Like they've done it, but it just wasn't enough to get me as interested as it should have.
All right, well, let's hit the likes then.
Yeah, straight out of the bat. You eat shit. Still in there. Had to be recycled from the original.
Multiple times,
yeah, because I found out when I was reading the book, I saw, so it was graffiti in the book, and in the original it was the volleyball game where Chris just walks up to her face to face, goes, you eat shit.
Yeah.
So this time they had somebody say to her, you eat shit, and also put it on the lockers in graffiti. So
A bunch of times.
A bunch of times.
Yeah, it was on different bits and pieces.
Fair to eat shit.
it
then.
just made me laugh because every time I saw it, I thought about that original one. It was just
Yeah.
like, that was so harsh.
Talking about straight out of the bat, like the intro, I thought really set the tone for what the mum is going to be.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Straight off the bat, she's just a fucking lunatic.
I liked that opening sequence. I felt that was cool to showcase pre-Carrie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie's birth. She was already a Bible
Yeah.
thumping loon
Ready to stab
who
the
was
baby in the
willing
face
to
with
kill
scissors.
the child, and then it comes back later. Like it's actually brought up later.
Yeah.
She actually says something to her about that.
See, that was a point of difference.
Yeah, and
And I think that was from the book. I think they mentioned in one of those flashbacks reports that, she thought about doing this because it was a mark of her sin and all that.
and it
sort of
was
stuff.
it was a good way to come into the film that was different to the original.
Yeah.
Right?
The original just had that soft-core child porn thing that was really uncomfortable, so this is way better.
Yeah, giving birth.
Yeah. But it was a you're spot on. It was a point of difference that actually
Sissy
worked.
Spacek in the shower, no thanks.
It was a point of difference.
Hard pass.
It was a point of difference that actually worked. It was the only one probably that worked.
Yeah,
it was
one of
different.
Very few.
The movie's was polished and it's well made, and all the key ingredients are technically quite good. Special effects are pretty good.
Yep. Cast.
Cinematography, cast all
Cast
that
is
stuff is
fine
pretty good.
for some of the major, like Julianne Moore is outstanding.
Yeah.
Ansel Elgort or whatever his name is, he's fine. Chloe Moretz like she's one of my favourite actors. She's a
Very good
fantastic actor, and she's been in some movies that I really, really liked, like Let Me In and Kick Ass and things like that. She wasn't the problem. Her acting is fine.
Yeah.
But there is a dislike attached to that too.
Absolutely.
So, outside of that, issues, but the main roles were pretty well cut.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Except
Sue
a couple.
Snell was the...
Yeah, we're going to get to her. She's coming in for some treatment.
Yeah.
Don't
And
worry about that.
Chris Hargensen.
I'm going out. I'm out of turn. Sorry.
But most Julianne Moore. The thing I
Julianne
loved
Moore's
about her, she dials
she
it
was
down a
good.
few notches. But there's this weird sort of some of the things she does. Like there's one point where Carrie comes home after hanging out with Tommy.
Yep.
She comes home late, and Mum's standing on the front lawn,
Like pacing.
rocking back and
Going-
forth like this, like where have you been?
But how unnerving is her?
She's headbutting walls and
Whoa,
shit
yeah.
like that. Like,
Slapping herself in the
it's
face.
really creepy shit. And
The unpicker in the laundry.
she's just
The stitches.
Yeah.
That was so. She's definitely like a different level of psychotic.
Yeah.
And I like that whole idea of her. I like that take that the home is the safe place, and we're going to take this in. Like when they're in the car, we've got to take this inside.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that she
It's a
was
safe place. It's also where she can fucking just brutally abuse her
Yeah.
daughter without
Yeah.
repercussions.
That stuff when she stabs herself in the leg too, though, like that brought up. It was like the atonement in something like.
It's in the
what was it like the Da
Dan
Vinci
Brown one,
Code?
yeah.
Da Vinci Code, where he's
they
putting
atone
that
their
tight
sins
in
by
his
the-
body.
Salice
Yeah,
on his leg.
and it's kind of like
Exactly
that. It was
yeah.
like she was having these.
impure thoughts.
Yeah, these thoughts about these kids, what they were doing to her child, but then she was kind of like, she was punishing herself. For, it was just off the wall.
The same with that. She's got the scars on her arms and stuff where she's like digs into her arms.
Yeah,
and
scratching
it was much
herself
more
or
like I thought Piper Laurie worked in her own way, but this one was much more unsettling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it whenever Julianne Moore was there was that sense of, especially with Carrie, something nasty was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like she was going to get stuck into her or lock her in the closet or whatever.
Yeah.
And I felt that there was a little bit of, there was a little bit unsettling feeling there whenever those two were on screen together. And so I think that works out really nicely.
Even the
Links
scene where she
into,
goes up. where
links
she
into one
goes-
of my dislikes, but I'll get back to that a bit later.
Yeah.
But just that, like, she's so far to... That would fuck you up a lot more than...
You can kind of see why you'd be
across.
absolutely...
The fact that the girl is as normal as she is is a miracle, really.
Yeah.
But like, we're always talking about how there needs to be a threat, or you need to feel like there's actual real danger. And even early on, there's a scene where she goes upstairs. I think it's after the shower scene, like where she gets all the tampons thrown at her and stuff, and she goes in and she's been practicing her telekinesis, and she's lifting things off, and they bang down on the ground, and she's laying down,
Mum grabs a knife.
and she's got the knife, and runs up the stairs.
upstairs. I'm thinking,
So you always
why are you
thinking-
going for a knife?
Yeah,
What's
but you always think they sort of hinted, and I don't know how much they go into the backstory of this one, but obviously in the other one, it's mentioned that her dad had the same situation, like the powers. Is that?
Yeah, it was mentioned in
I
this.
believe. Well, I think it was. They were talking about. So in the book, they go into great detail about how it's like a recessive gene. So I think it was something to do with Carrie's grandmother on her mother's side had it.
Yeah, and it skipped it.
It skipped because the dad.
Had a
Carrie's
recessive
mother's
gene.
dad didn't have it. So then, her mum had the gene, but it was dormant, and then the dad had the gene. So that's
Brought it out again.
that was the explanation. In
And
the
it
book.
is mentioned in this movie. It's in a very throwaway sort of.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not
later
like
on.
In the book, she
if
talks
you
about.
miss it, you don't know.
Yeah.
In the book, she talks about her grandmother lifting the sugar bowl off the table and things like that, and her mum getting those things in her mind about witches and stuff like that.
But even that, like the mum, like I think, because what you're saying, like she goes for the knife first up. She's hearing these banging upstairs, and she's thinking it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
And this is the devil in my house, and so she's immediately
I
like,
have
I'm
to
going to
take
solve the problem.
steps. Yeah, I need to
I'm
kill
going back to
this
scissor in the
person.
baby
Yeah,
face
yeah.
sort of situation. So
I think Julianne Moore is a great bit of casting. Like it was a great bit of casting.
Excellent.
And I really have big raps on Ansel Elgort. I thought he was good because he's really relaxed and he feels natural.
Yeah.
And those scenes between those two, they're kind of sweet.
To me, he plays the kid that actually was well liked in high school, that everyone did like because he seemed like a decent bloke as well as.
Well, one query though. In the original movie, he was the high school quarterback. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you getting a lot of play as the lacrosse guy.
I said to Matt the same thing. I said,
It's American Pie.
what is it with Hollywood movies and lacrosse? Am I missing something here?
I've seen a little bit of lacrosse, and it reminds me a little bit of AFL.
I think
and
it was,
soccer.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of cool game, but I'm thinking it's not it's not one of the big three sports.
Yeah.
We better email the Nostalgia Be Damned guys and just say, do you
Lacrosse?
guys actually play lacrosse? And did anyone that played lacrosse really
get girls?
reach the heights of, prom king?
Yeah.
Because I think it was just I think the sport was a conscious choice though. The same thing with the let's play volleyball in a pool.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just to show that it's a really affluent school. They've got money.
Yeah.
And that's sort of
It is more of a
into-
preppy sport than the football thing. The footy's more like the deep south.
That's anyone can play football, but you
Lacrosse
need
is
to
more a
be
bit preppy.
More skills and whatever to play lacrosse. But massive props to him because I think that was actually his first movie. I think this might have been his first film.
Because the only other one I've seen him in is the one, is it?
The Stars.
Fault in Our Stars.
I haven't seen that, but he's in the one with Shailene Woodley, isn't he? He's in the
Divergent or
the
one of
Divergent
those
series,
ones,
and it's just like I saw him in that. I'm like,
he's
what the
barely
fuck?
even in that.
Yeah, he's not. It's a bit part, but even his character is just very one note.
But this is a really nice performance, and I think the two of them work well together.
he's
And it
very
does
earnest
feel really.
I liked him in the limousine because he breaks the tension of. Which I guess he didn't see it as much in the first one. It's sort of like, just come on, I'm going to take you into this thing. You're going to have fun. But he breaks it down a bit with a bit of humour, and they have an actual conversation. And you're not going to make fun of me. Like there's the.
And I really like the sequence where they're looking at the prom ballot, and he goes, we're on the ballot or whatever, and she goes, so who are we going to vote for? And he goes, we're voting for ourselves. And she starts laughing, and I just again, there's a little bit of humour, and it feels really nice.
The parts when they were together were the parts in the movie, other than when Julianne Moore was on screen, where you couldn't look away, you couldn't just switch off.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate his performance, and Chloe Moretz is at her best in those sequences as well.
Yep.
I had to give him points for trying the cyberbullying. Again, there is a big dislike attached to it, but it felt like one of the worthwhile things to try and tread.
Yeah.
And I felt maybe they could have taken that to Stephen King himself and said, is there a way you can incorporate this? Because it was pretty superficial what they did in the end.
Yeah.
It felt right at the start, but it never went anywhere. But I have to give him points for saying, okay, well, this might be one of our avenues to go.
Yeah.
So
appreciate that. Yeah,
I think I saw the director was talking about it in an interview. She was just saying, look, if we played it like a real school, then the phones would be out in every single scene, and everyone would have their heads down all the time.
Yeah.
So we really had to limit it. And she said they'd shot some more scenes with it in there, but it took away from, I guess, what her idea of what Carrie is.
Yeah, and I felt that maybe that's where they could have got King involved.
Yeah,
and said, "What
Find a
about
better way."
your take? Just take it to the table and say, have you got anything?"
They
You
missed
might
the
just get a nugget
opportunity
here
to use that technology to change it a little bit
Yes.
in a more positive way, as opposed to we're going to stick traditional to that old script again. Yeah.
Did everyone else notice Ellis from Die Hard?
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah.
That guy
He
is
looks
the smarmy as buggery, isn't
And
he?
he still looks
brilliant.
coked out of his mind.
Yeah.
Because he's playing a lawyer.
I loved it. I loved him. It's great to see him. Hard mate.
Chris's dad.
I was hoping he'd go, honey, hard, booby. I mean, wait, no. I was hoping for a bit of that shit.
I actually, I'm glad they brought that scene back. It didn't hit the mark, but I actually said that to Maddie. I said there's one scene in there where her dad comes to the school, and it works really well. They changed it a bit in this one, in that Judy Greer's the one that brings up the phone
the video, yeah.
And again, that was one of the few parts where they brought the video, but it doesn't resonate as strongly because in the book, it's the principal who's a bit of a fucking dill up until that point, and it shows that okay, Carrie does have some support in there somewhere, even though that, and they do it in the movie too. He's kind of disconnected from Carrie because all these issues are coming up with the menstruation and stuff. So he's kind of like
Awkward
Mr. Jardine,
city, yeah.
You can do that,
Yeah.
But then in the book, he's kind of like, so it gives that there is a little bit of support there and makes Desjardins the face of it.
Yeah.
But it also makes Chris. It works to make Chris look even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That she's cruel, but she's an entitled bitch, and like she's getting daddy to sort everything out for her, and
I appreciated that sequence because I think it fleshed out a little bit of that stuff.
Yeah.
Not fully, but you're right. It actually showed Chris to be more than just a bitch and a bully. She was entitled. She was spoiled. Daddy comes along, fixes this.
Yeah, but it also goes to the power thing. Like Maddie was talking in the first one, how it's all about power, and when the power transfers to this person that's treated like shit, what would they do with the power and stuff?
Yeah.
And that shows where her power is. Basically, she's
the same-
ruling the school because her dad's got the power outside of town, and she's
And her willing to stand up against the teachers.
But you kind of also
detention is
see
the
in that
same thing.
sequence too that Dad's getting the shits with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she says, I don't want to give you my phone. It's got personal things on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, give me the fucking phone, basically. You know?
Yeah. I love that she just walks out.
He's starting to get his feeling of, you know, you did it, didn't you?
Mm.
Like, you know, I know you did it.
So I thought in the original they kind of made it a bit more sympathetic too, because it gets to that point and then the dad you can start to see like more of a darker side with him as well. Like he's putting on the like, this is my little girl phase, and then it gets to where he realises she's done something wrong, he starts to turn a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you can sort of see that behind the scenes maybe everything isn't all roses.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one she just is just a shit.
Yeah.
And then ends up being a proper sociopath for the best part. Like
yeah.
fucking killing the pigs and like all that shit. Like she's right in there. Whereas in the other one she was kind of a bit of a passenger and wasn't really sure about it.
Yeah.
She's more of a driving force with all the shit that goes on in this one.
I felt like she was the psycho in the first one. She had all the ideas and she got the idiots. She was a bit more of a puppet master.
Yeah.
But in this one, it was sort of like definitely that power dynamic switched.
And I think a
And
bit
they
of
were
that
partners
falls
in
into
crime,
dislike,
body
and I
and
know we talked about this.
Yeah.
One of my favourite bits, I think that the finale is suitably explosive, and it blows up, and that chick getting thrown full force into the door with the glass window,
Yeah.
she just goes flying back and goes BAM straight into it, and the bloke getting cut in half by the
The bleachers.
the bleachers closing up on
that
him.
was nasty.
Gold stuff, mate. Like,
And it's sort of it was similar to It when you know they got a bit more money and technology than they had in the previous ones. You can go a little bit further with some of this stuff, and when
and the car getting picked up, and then
when it works,
goes into
it
the thing,
really
her
works.
face goes through the windscreen.
Yeah,
and
that
Slow
was
motion,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
it? Time.
Some of that stuff is cool, you know, it's really well
Yep.
done.
I didn't
actually,
mind when she died. I didn't mind that.
No,
Actually,
It's worthwhile.
just in terms of the other point of differences too, the other thing I really noticed with this one is gradually through the movie, Carrie gets to use and sort of learn more about powers a lot more than in the original, because you're right. No, I was talking to Coxie. She's gradually like she's moving books around, she's lifting her bed up, and like in the first one she's kind of accidentally doing a lot of stuff, and she's kind of just along for the ride until the end bit where she goes right off. But this one she's more in the driver's seat and sort of knows what she's able to do, and like controls her mum a lot more, and she's sort of like sitting her down and putting her in the closet and that sort of stuff.
yeah, and she I think it's a bit clearer. I think it's a bit clearer that she does that research with the books. Like in the original, you saw her doing the research, but you didn't see her training it almost.
learning
a
it
little
out,
bit of
yeah.
this, she starts to figure it out. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, but I also had a slight dislike. Only because I equated a certain section in with something that made me laugh.
well,
so.
it gives her a bit more of a sense. That gives it a bit more a sense of breaking away from her mother a little bit, and goes in line with you becoming a woman, which is clear. Like that's one of the clear themes of it. You know, growing up, obviously the blood and everything.
Getting your powers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And she starts to use them independently and figure it all out.
I like that she actually enjoys it as well. She's
Yeah,
playing with
exactly.
the flag and she smiles to herself like it's not all sad and hidden. It's sort of there's a bit of a change in her as well.
Yeah. I thought that worked quite well.
Yeah.
I also thought that aside from replaying the dropping of the bucket a few times,
That sucks.
that sucked. I liked that it
Different
some
camera
of the
angles though,
things-
guys. Camera
Yeah, but it
angles.
ruined it.
Some
Yeah,
of the
of course
some of the things that happened in that
Blooper.
scene.
Looked like a blooper.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Some of the things that happened in that scene were again clearer than the original.
Yeah.
Like it was clearer that Tommy was in
Yeah,
some
yeah,
real
yeah.
shit when the bucket hit his head. Where in the original, we were all kind of like,
Oh, he's knocked out.
did he?
Yeah,
exactly.
Did he die or did he just get knocked unconscious?
Yeah.
But it's obvious
In this one, he's
he was
dead. His
He's
eyes
in
are
some
open.
shit.
He's fucking toast. Yeah.
It's obvious.
And she kind of gets emotional.
It's
Yeah.
more obvious.
That's what I like too. She realised he was dead.
Yeah.
and
That's the
got
thing that sets her
emotional
over.
about it, and that's when she blows up.
Yeah, it's also clear that Miss Desjardins thinks that Sue's in on it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original, that was when it was slow mo and noise was cut out, so you couldn't really tell. She
It's
could
kind of
see Sue there.
insinuated, but in this one, it's clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, you could see her dragging Sue away when Sue's pointing at the rope, like stop it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then you're sitting there going, why the fuck would she do that? Whereas this one, it was much clearer.
She locked her
thinks
out, yeah.
she's in on it.
Yeah.
You know,
It wasn't as stretched out as well, the time between...
Oh, it's so
First
long
thing.
in the first one.
Yeah, that killed you. I remember you talking about
Yeah,
it.
going back and forth. Oh, I'm going to touch the rope. Oh, the rope's stuck. Like, that shit just fuck
Like
off.
playing
You
over
just
the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like, boom.
The end
That's
sequence
it.
is just obviously the money and when they made it, it makes it a lot easier. But the end sequence is done so much better. There's just the deaths make a lot more sense. The fact that Desjardins
Parts
survives
of it,
in this
yeah,
one,
parts of
because
it.
there's a bit where she's like levitating over the electricity and the water and whatever, and she's like, oh, like I'm going to kill you, and then she's like,
Yeah.
fuck, hang on, this is one that's been nice to me, and she
Yeah,
sets
but
it down safely.
I disagree with that.
You know what?
I reckon
Actually-
the original is far better.
Yeah.
Because
the
it,
whole
it's
why
did
did
she
she
murder
murder
in
the
the
whole
first
one?
one, though?
Well,
but
you know what?
because to me, the rage, Carrie just exploded and just killed everyone. It
No,
didn't matter
you
if
know-
you liked her.
you know what? I
You've
actually-
done something good for her.
For me, I think when I first watched it, I was definitely in your corner. I was like, Carrie was kind and nice and whatever, and this woman showed her son back, and so it would make a bit of sense that she saved her. But when I read the book, I got a more of a view on it, and in her mind, which is kind of what the original does, is that she starts to get a bit paranoid
Oh, okay.
and say everyone's having a lend at me and everyone's laughing at me.
Yeah.
So when Mr. Jardin comes over in the book, she comes over to help Carrie, and Carrie's like, "You set me up too," in her head, and fucking slams.
So
her
that
in the
makes
wall.
more sense, but you don't
So
get that in
you
this
don't
one.
get
That's why it makes sense that she survives.
Which
yeah.
You get that all like pretty strongly in De Palma's one.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, because
there's
that's when
contrast.
that's when the heads are spinning.
Yeah, and she's
you
laughing
you
as
actually
well.
see Mr. Jardin
Everyone's laughing, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it makes sense in that
This
one.
the original for me, even though it's longer and it's more stretched out, the payoff, because it takes longer to build, the payoff is worth it. Whereas in this one, when it pays off, it's short and kind of condensed,
Yeah.
and it just happens, and it takes like a couple of minutes, and I didn't feel that there. And this is going into dislikes, and I don't know if I'm cutting.
No,
you
I've still
off.
got a couple of likes. Well, one in particular, I like the Billy and Chris stuff better, because that's kind of the opposite to what you just said. In the original, that one felt super rushed. She got out of the thing, and then this car drives up to her, and then it's flipped.
Yeah,
and you're like,
flipped
oh, fuck,
over,
that was
yeah.
Chris and Billy. In this one, it's prolonged.
Yeah.
And kind of like,
And
well,
deservedly
these are-
so.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of get their comeuppance.
Get your comeuppance.
She really savours that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they deserve it badly.
Yeah.
And the original skimps on that.
Yeah.
It almost felt like we run out of money.
Yeah.
so we've got to just have a walking down the street and then we'll toss this car
That
over
was
there.
literally like
Wanted
20
it.
seconds, just
Yeah.
like stuck in there, like 20 seconds of her walking down the road, and oh shit, here comes the car.
Bye-bye.
again, man.
Yeah. Because they're kind of the big bad in the first one, really, and they don't get anywhere near the service
So
that
I
everyone gets.
appreciated what they did with this one.
Yeah.
Because they really dragged it.
Yeah.
You know, they hold the car up in the air for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, and that prolonged stuff about her head, like
Yeah.
her head going through the windscreen.
It's
and
in
stuff.
slow motion.
I like
She's still alive. She's still
He was
alive,
getting
but it's
choked out by the seatbelt, which
Yeah.
was kind of like, if you've got supernatural powers, let's use them.
yeah,
to...
let's use them up.
Yeah.
Even his face hitting the steering wheel when he's just
Yeah, he's dead beat.
yeah, he's fucking
His
toast.
nose is in his head.
He was such a prick.
I
that, you
know.
like that was a like.
Yeah.
He bit the dust. He was just-
I think that the last like, I think it might have been the most enjoyment that me and Maddie got out of the movie was when two blokes that look like 90s boy band members start giving Carrie suggestive kind of, you know.
It was NSYNC.
2 seconds later, we get introduced to the bloke to Billy, who in the original obviously was John Travolta. Now it appears to be the situation from fucking Jersey Shore. I was just like, oh, look at this bloke.
He looks like an absolute dickhead.
Yeah. One thing that I liked, I guess, in that prom scene, oh, man, I hate saying the word prom, by the way. It does not work with our accents. But I liked that you sort of got a glimpse of what Carrie's life could be outside of this school. Like the fact that she's talking with this girl from another school.
Yeah.
The girlfriend.
Yeah, the
and
other
they're having
couple.
that conversation. You're just like, man, just like you know the imminent, like, death of everyone in the room's about to happen, but
Yeah.
it's like, this is a nice moment. This is what your life could be like if you just get out of this school,
Get away from your mum.
yeah, that's right, if you can just get away from everything that's around you.
Yeah.
Like you've got the potential to be someone and achieve good things, but
Because when she's out
Yeah,
of
I like
like
that.
away from her mum and gets a little bit of confidence, like she holds her own with all those
Yeah.
other kids. Like she's just a good normal kid
Yeah.
that just fucking drew a short straw on with a parent.
Yeah.
And just lives like struggles. Like, and we probably all had kids like that at school. Like I had people I knew at school, and they were all perfectly nice people, and just could not have a life because of different circumstances they had no control over. So
yeah, it's
a lot
sort
of people can relate to it.
It gave a sense too of like, you know, as you grow up, you find out the world's a bit bigger.
Yeah.
It's sort of it all went hand in hand with that whole religious stuff and breaking free from my mum's influence and growing up and turning into a woman, and like it was. That was a pretty good part of it, actually.
Yeah. Like some. Are we going to talk about the knives? We didn't talk about the knives last time.
Including a ruler.
Yeah, the bloody ruler.
It's a steel roller from shop.
Love it. She cops the whole bloody cutlery stand.
Yeah. I liked it. It was like all at once. Hovering over her, and then she's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this."
Yeah, she got them all. She got the butter knives, the prawn forks.
Cheese knife.
Yeah, I think there's some cheese knife hanging out.
I love the bit where Carrie's like pulling them out and unnail her from the wall, and then she just leaves a couple in there, with a pair of scissors and something still in her chest when she's laying on the
You
ground.
get that shit out. She's dying.
Fuck it. It's probably the only thing keeping her alive.
Yeah, it's plugging it up now.
Yeah.
Any other
Well, yeah, there you go. Bit of a pun. Didn't mean to. But,
any other likes?
I'm pretty well covered.
That's it for me.
Yeah. Getting back to what I was saying before, the first one, because it took its time, and yes, it was longer, yes, it was slower, but it was a slow build, and we knew something was coming, and when it comes, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And the what I'm saying about her saving the teacher, that goes against what I felt in the original, which was all of you must die. You know,
See, the problem
and they did throw in that bit in the original with everyone laughing, including her.
Yeah.
But I agree, the book fleshes it more.
Yeah, I think De Palma made the right choice because he tried to give as best an explanation as he can visually because he can't go into Carrie's head and show that paranoia. So he did it with those shots, and I think that worked. But either way it went, I was kind of... it was hard to get that either way that it went, but I think he did the right thing just by saying the rage is kind of indiscriminate. It's like everyone was involved. Everyone was either did it or stood by and did it, so you kind of got a bit of that anyway.
The brunt of it. I guess this movie is hamstrung badly by the original because you know what's coming, you know the pig's blood, you know it all.
That iconic stuff's coming.
And then when it comes in this one, it's kind of a letdown to me. Even though when she lets loose well. Like they do it well. It just felt very condensed, very quick, and you kind of like, oh, well, I knew that was coming. Whereas when you first saw the original, you knew something bad was going to happen. But De Palma, because he's shot with such style, the colour schemes, the split screens, all that stuff, just gave it a nice touch and brought something to it.
I'll tell you what, if you went to see the original after having seen the trailer, you would have known it was going to happen too, because
that trailer was one of the worst trailers I've ever seen in terms of just there's no mystery.
They did that back in the 70s all the time. I mean, Jaws is 3 minutes long and it pretty much tells you the whole film.
But yeah, this way, it did. It told you the plot points. It told you, but yeah, it's...
To me, that was it just feels like this movie's hamstrung because it's stuck so slavishly.
Well, everything's so iconic that if you haven't seen the movie, you still kind of know what happens.
Yeah.
So I think Maddie mentioned that last time, that it's so iconic that everybody knows it, and you know it's been impersonated. There's been music film clips that basically do the story in the film clip, and like everyone knows it. You know the bucket and the pig's blood and everything.
And we've harped on this already. You needed a fresh take somewhere. And I agree, going to King would have been worthwhile to talk to him and see what he might have thought. But there's no fresh take. So when there's no fresh take, I question what are you doing?
Yeah, what's
Why
the point?
Are you doing it?
Yep.
I haven't got an answer for that.
No, I don't think. I think they just
money
just
or
missed the
whatever.
mark.
There isn't one. They just churned out another one, and it was a carbon copy. That's all there is to it, really.
Now, Chloe Moretz, Jared, you said that you had a dislike, non-performance based.
It's a big one because, as I said, I think she's probably one of my favourite actors, and her performance in this movie doesn't do anything to change my mind about that. Her performance is fine. She plays a lot of the anxious and nervous stuff really well, and but the problem is she just doesn't look like what you imagine Carrie to be. She doesn't look like an outcast. She doesn't look like... I mean, to put it, I've got no class, so I'm going to go the classless approach. Guaranteed at high school or whatever, there's one kid that's looking at her going, she's all right. And I remember Gibbo said last week that, but she's the weird religious one. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But there's still one kid that's going, that just means no one else is going for it. I'm gonna have a crack.
Sorry, not with Sissy Spacek.
No,
that's the thing. Not
Spacek played down so much, she looked terrible.
Yeah. Also, she's ugly as a hatful of arseholes.
But she looked. But when you dressed her up, you could get away with being okay. She looks better.
But she looked away. The hair was colourless, like is described in the book. The description in the book is very different. That she's plump,
a bigger girl,
pimples and all this sort of stuff. But he says things like her hair has got no colour, and I looked at it. I'm like, Sissy Spacek, that's what she looks like. It looks like it just, there's nothing there.
She didn't have eyelashes or eyebrows or anything.
Whereas Chloe Moretz is still, she's a good-looking girl. She's got the blonde hair. It just doesn't fit the role.
That's all they really did with her in this is they kind of...
Like, she wore some overalls.
They put like some light brown, like just to make her hair look a little bit strawy. Put some hairspray in it and probably just ruffled it up a bit so it didn't look silky.
Yeah.
And then put her in some shit clothes, and that's it. Yeah. It's like she's all that.
The clothes weren't even that shit. It was like they were still like nice clothes, but they looked like a little bit bland and a little bit
talented seamstress.
Well, there's one where she's in like a plaid kind of shirt sort of thing. I'm thinking she's paying fucking $80 for that at H&M or something like that.
She's going to Saks Fifth Avenue,
so it just didn't. The whole thing about it was I just couldn't look at this movie and say that's Carrie. That's what
I feel.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Based upon what I said in the trivia, all the actresses in line for the role are all of a similar mould to Chloe Moretz. They would have looked great. Yeah. I mean, Haley Steinfeld. There is no way you're buying into that.
No.
That she's ugly and an outcast.
Yeah.
That's
put some glasses on Rachel Lee Cook. She's ugly.
I think they would have been better off going for someone more closely resembling what the book stated.
And it's trying not to lay the boot into Sissy too much, but she's a plain looking.
Plain on what
planet? Nice here.
Jesus.
But you know what I mean?
But that's why she worked for that.
Like, she works because her as Carrie as the outcast looks pretty
like
ordinary.
Yeah.
But she was hidden away. Yeah. I think Carrie still walks with confidence to some extent, and it's not. You don't see her in a physicality as being as dishevelled as Sissy Spacek was.
And that comes back to another thing I was thinking. I understand religious zealots still exist. I mean, we recently had that thing about that mob that were keeping their kids chained to their blood.
Yeah.
I understand that's the case today, but it fits better in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yes.
It fit better in the 70s. She's on YouTube looking at moving things.
Yeah.
She could have easily looked through YouTube and found, plenty of shit and had it almost like a double life. Mum would not have known, and she could have been super popular.
They did try to explain that very slightly with that kid saying, if you press this, you can make... So
she didn't really know much about it.
She doesn't really know what she's doing, but she's found a way on to...
So...
give her 20 minutes and she'll be finding all sorts of shit on there.
My kids at 3 years old are fucking, hacking iPads, so I'm sure she could have figured it out eventually.
So I just feel the religious stuff doesn't ring as true in 2013 as it did in the 1970s.
Just because access to knowledge and stuff like that.
And she does. They kind of try and explain it. They sort of showcase that Carrie's a little more savvy than she was in the 74 version. 76 version. But it's not enough.
They're also trying to explain it away by saying that she's been homeschooled up until a recent point because they finally, it's basically like Docs has said, no, you can't homeschool her anymore. She's got to go to school.
But this was
if Docs had showed up, she wouldn't be in the house.
Yeah. And this tied into a dislike I was talking about with Jad in terms of the school is so affluent. They've got these rich sports. The campus is huge. There's all these kids. Like everything's done on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And even like they're finding out about things in other classes from texts.
Yeah.
Daddy's a lawyer, all that sort of stuff. Well, she doesn't fit in at all.
Mm.
And how did she get there? Like I think on the original, they're all sort of, the expectation is the power level is all equal, except because she's just a little bit weirder, she gets held down.
Yeah.
In this one, she could get lost in the corner somewhere and no one would notice her.
Yeah, and like you also made a good point too about when you get to places that size, or seemingly it seems a lot bigger than it was in the original. You find other people.
Yeah.
Like even the lowest on the totem pole finds somebody else because it's a bigger.
Chris and Sue and co would probably never have seen her.
No, they wouldn't
On a
have anything to do
campus
with
that
her.
big, they wouldn't have known anything about her.
Other than when you're forced together in sports class, I guess. That's the only reason they really have any interaction.
It goes against that whole, because this is, in the 70s, it's a small place. It's a small town. Everybody's there. Everybody knows everyone.
Everyone knows
you
the
don't get
legend
that-
of Margaret White, the crazy bitch.
Yeah, you don't get
who
that
still is
sense in this
daughter.
one.
Yeah, and my biggest dislike is Sue and Chris and the other characters are just awful.
Terrible.
They look like something out of a soap opera or a 90210. Like they all look a bit the same.
Sue looks like a spider.
I was going to say, anything to say on Sue? We got to about the 40-minute mark and I said to Maddie, her face hasn't changed yet.
Yeah.
Her face, every scene she's in is the same facial expression.
Would you believe she's a model by trade?
Oh, no way.
Well, no, of course not. I thought, she had more sort of...
She's 6'45".
But yeah, she's a dreadful actress.
Yeah.
Chris is... Nancy Allen was a bitch in the original, but this is 10 times worse.
Yeah.
At least she's not wearing a fucking, like a little peaked hat and shit, though, with fucking pigtails.
Yeah, that wasn't it.
You hit the nail on the head with
Mario.
Nancy Allen. She was the puppet master.
Yeah.
She ran that show. Travolta and co were just morons who just did what they were told.
Yeah.
In this one, there's a sequence up in the rafters between her and Billy.
Yep.
That I just remember thinking, this is just so out of place.
Hold my
says,
hand.
No, he says to her,
he's gonna kill
This
her.
is
Yeah.
fucking. This is criminal assault.
Yeah.
If you tell anyone, I'll fucking kill you. And I'm just like, so hang on, is he the
Ringleader? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's the ringleader.
But I think
So
there
that
was
was
moments.
actually-
There's moments where they're like a couple. It's Bonnie and Clyde. It's,
Yeah, but it's just
yeah,
stupid.
the 2
'cause
villains that are doing it together.
it showcases
that was-
that Chris is all in when she kills the pig,
Yeah.
but then it undercuts her.
It's
that
like,
was-
that's
that was-
cute. Let's kill a pig together.
Yeah.
I'll slash its throat, and then
Yeah. I actually, when we watched that, I was just fuming at how they changed Billy. And then when I read the book, it actually happens in there.
Yeah.
They go from both angles, and it's just sort of throwaway, but they talk about exactly what we said. Chris is the puppet master, and there's these little bits of subplot where they're talking about Chris was used to having boys just do whatever, blah blah blah. Billy was the first one that pushed back a little bit, and he actually says something of the effect before they actually go in about how this is assault or whatever, blah blah blah. But he's okay with it, and sort of shows that he's a bit loose as well. But again, I think De Palma picked out the best of it and just stuck with, we don't need that shit. She's the puppet master. She's the focus of the race. She causes it. It fits so much better. And it fits... I mean, Travolta was far better as just the bozo that was kind of getting strung along,
Especially the prick teasing part when they're at the drive-in or whatever it is. And she's like messing around, like kissing him and then fucking calling him
his hair and
shit and whatever else. And he's like, dude, you're so fucking mean to me. And then she starts kissing him. He's like, hey.
This dude from the get-go, I mean, he looked like a fucking...
I mean, I was expecting him to talk about Jim Pan laundry.
It was a bit more rugged Freddie Prinze to me. And that's not good.
No, that's not at all. But the way that he's so into it, and they're both lunatics, as you said. It's kind of like, you said Bonnie and Clyde. I'm thinking like Natural Born Killers. They're fucking lunatics, the pair of them.
Yeah.
So it didn't really fit either when she's slitting the pig's throat, but then she hesitates with the rope, and he starts telling her, "I'm going to fucking kill you." It's like, you've just slit a pig's throat. You're a fucking loose unit.
And then
You
later
don't
on,
need
they're
to be
like,
pushed.
"Let's kill this bitch." They're
Yeah,
in the car,
exactly. They run her over.
Yeah.
it just didn't work. It didn't work.
It was
De Palma got it
confused.
right because he decided that
She just
shit
trimmed
had
a
to
little
go,
bit of fat, and it was
and
better.
she would be the main source of the rage.
So that was another point of difference that actually came from the book, but it just didn't work.
I had a problem with Chris overall. She started out. I thought she started out really well when in that scene in the shower, she's sort of shows a little bit of sympathy at the beginning when she's got the period. She's just but then Carrie's reaction is so over the top. She turns it into her show and starts chucking them, getting everyone to throw things.
And again, that sequence feels more natural in 1970s.
Yeah.
Now, I've suggested, and I understand bullying is big,
Not
there
the
would be
whole
one
group,
or two girls who'd be going, look, it's not a big problem, just come with us, we'll cover you up.
I didn't mind
because everybody was in on it.
Yeah, I didn't mind the take on that shower scene. I didn't mind that. I liked her. In fact, I liked that she showed a bit of sympathy, and then everybody came in on it. But Sue Snell's pathetic face when she's watching it,
when she starts feeling guilty, that's her I'm guilty face.
That's her face throughout the whole bloody thing.
And look, let's get down to the brass here. You're Sue Snell's boyfriend, right? She comes to you and she says,
I'm not going to let her speak, but she looks good.
She says, remember, you're on the lacrosse team, Gibbo.
I'm not talking much Talladega, don't worry.
So, she comes to you and she says, I've done a really shit thing. I need you to take Carrie White to the prom. I'm going, I understand you've done a bad thing. How's that got anything to do with me?
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I'm saying if it's 1976, I'm saying no. If it's 2013, I'm saying, oh, yeah, she looks alright. I'll take it.
Oh, you mean who's playing
super
the part?
shallow?
Yes, fair
You know
enough.
what I mean?
Like, I'm on the lacrosse team. I'm shallow. You know.
I mean, I'm not questioning that because you can't have a film without that. But again, it just feels like he kind of rolls over to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, he does.
Like he I think he says one time to her, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah, I really need to do something nice." And I know it was showing he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
So he'll do this for her because he cares about.
I feel like it suffered because her performance couldn't show that she was persuading you. It was like you just got this girl in front of you saying, "Please, are you serious?"
All right.
I
well,
really
I'm pretty.
like it.
I might be serious. You can't tell, but I'm pretty. So let's just go with it, eh?
Her running was like
Oh yeah.
a gazelle.
No.
no, sorry, I'll take that back. Like a clumsy giraffe.
Yeah, the giraffe is better. Gazelle is a little bit too majestic.
Yeah,
But, so, but even just get back to the Chris thing. Like in the first one, it feels like the sequence of events is a little bit different, where you can see where like Chris is obviously still unhinged, but she actually is provoked by Carrie a bit more. In this one, it feels like she goes from 0 to 100 over nothing, really. Like she's
always
drops the
trying to
volleyball in the pool, and then she's like, "You ate shit," and then she wants to fucking murder her.
Yeah.
And she hasn't really done anything to her. In the first one, it felt like the sequence of events was different, where she got a ban from. Not directly, but it was her fault that she wasn't allowed to go to prom, and that's where she starts ratcheting it up.
You got more of the sense that she was blaming Carrie for her.
Yeah,
Whereas because Carrie was the target of her shit, and she got in trouble for it. It's like it's Carrie's fault.
Yeah.
And
Whereas this one, I took a video of us treating a girl like shit.
Yeah.
They found that video. They told me I couldn't go to prom. That's Carrie White's fault.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're making a pretty quick leap there. And there's a sequence where they're in her bedroom, and they're all bitching about Carrie, and I'm like, that's
Just
pretty,
what has she done?
pretty
Exactly.
quick to jump into that.
It was. So, I think in the first one, it gave a better. You were clear that she thought Carrie was a friggin' idiot because she didn't know what was going on in the shower.
Yeah.
And so she was like, it's her fault. So that seemed a little bit more, even though it is a really warped sense of what's going on, it felt a little more justified than I took a video of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, again, as we talk more about comparing this to the original, it just seems that Brian De Palma and his screenwriters had far more understanding of what would be better.
Yeah, they grasped
They
what they were trying to do.
took the things out that they needed to and made it more clear. The villain here, Carrie's the downtrodden. Chris is the villain.
Yeah.
They've come into contact with each other, and it's cost Chris dearly. And so Chris now is aiming her rage at Carrie. And then when Carrie gets the pig's blood, she unloads rage on everyone.
Yeah, that's right.
This doesn't seem like this one seems like they may have got. Oh, we need to make changes. Well, let's pull through the King book and then let's take some things that perhaps didn't really work.
But you know what the funny thing was supposedly at the start they were going to say we're leaving King's stuff behind a little bit and remaking the movie. But then they brought the stuff in from
the book.
Yeah.
And
so
Moret's talking about it in her
like
interview it was like my Bible. I hung on to it all day on set.
Yeah.
But the thing is, maybe the King stuff sounds better on the page. Like maybe that stuff is better on the page, and it just
some
doesn't
of it
work
is. But then they took, like as I said, they took that lawyer scene, and I think the changes that they made for this movie to that lawyer scene didn't work out so well, whereas it played better in the book. Like
in the book,
I don't know.
In the book, did they describe Chris as looking like Snooki from Jersey Shore?
I think so. Actually, I think that's straight out of the book. So
that tan was ridiculous.
Yeah, and going with the fake tan and then the coral pink lipstick. Yeah. So it looks like you got no lips.
I was like, how are these two? Like her and the giraffe. Like how are they friends? It doesn't make.
Yeah.
They don't quite.
But that happens in a lot of these sort of films. You notice, like we talked about it in Friday the 13th. You know, Trent's an absolute douchebag, and you're wondering, well, how the fuck are these people hanging around with this guy?
Because he's a rich, good-looking bloke that plays football.
But they never really explained much of the connection between them, and I think I guess it's hard to do that when you come straight in the shower scene.
Affluent backgrounds. One of them's probably popular because she's pretty, and that's about it. And then the other one has a rich dad and is a spiteful little bitch that basically forces her way into.
Well, we get a short scene of Chris's mum. Sue's mum talking with Margaret, saying, "Look, I know what they did was wrong, but Sue's a good person and things like that." You still got a sense that she was a bit hoity-toity too.
Yeah, because isn't it in the first one, wasn't that Sue's mum that was getting hassled by Margaret White?
Yeah, and gets the money out and she just tries to pay her off.
You felt much more for Sue's mum in that one because she's like, I'd be paying this woman to get out of my house too, and then she still gets a serve. She gives her $10 and still gets a spray for not being religious enough or something like that.
Yeah.
Gibbo, you're probably not going to like this, but I reckon the shower scene worked far better in the first one. That whole suggestiveness of it and what she was actually going through.
Are you talking about the lingering or after she has a period?
The lingering and stuff, because that was kind of linked to it all. That was linked. Yeah. That just wasn't in this one. It just wasn't there.
I don't like it.
But once again, I felt the shower scene was just like the finale, condensed.
Yeah, well, I was glad that it was. I didn't want it to be fucking 15 minutes of someone just looking at a girl having a shower.
Nobody wants that, and admittedly, in the 1970s, it just flew. That sounds a little bit.
Got him.
Super seedy. That sounds super seedy.
This flew better in the 70s. I mean, that flew better in the 70s.
Sure.
But it's not even about that. It's clear intention of what's... De Palma's telling you something with that about where this chick is in the state of her life. Yeah. It's actually meaningful sort of filmmaking. Whereas this one, it just felt like she's in the shower.
This one felt like they did this shot in the first one. I have to do it again. That's what this one felt like.
It was kind of like ticking the boxes. Whereas De Palma kind of put together stuff that you have a chance to explain in the book, but in the movie you've just got this shot, and I've got to explain this about her life. And how she doesn't understand what this is, and how that all came together, but you don't have the time to explain all that. And I thought he did a pretty good job of that in the shower scene with the suggestiveness that we went over at length last week. I got one last dislike. I think it's my last one.
I got a couple. I've barely touched my list. They're very specific though. You know, my dislikes are very specific.
Yeah, I think Adam was not on board with this at all when I mentioned it, but Judy Greer. Is totally miscast.
Yeah. She's way too cheerful.
Yeah, but she doesn't look like... I don't know, maybe it's the background and the roles that she's done, and you can't shake the comedy stuff, but you're always waiting for a gag.
I did not need that in my
The whole time I was just like, it's the last time you're going to see these. From Arrested Development. I loved it.
But it's also like, they kind of... You're expecting that, and then you're like, it's not a comedy role, we're kind of settling in. Then they show her at the prom, dancing like a dickhead, and you're like... They still snuck it in there.
Yeah, she looks too
and they just undermined it completely. I just felt... I haven't got a problem with her as an actress at all. I think she's pretty good, and was another person in the cast that was, Good job. Good,
Just not the right
another
role.
good actor.
She sounds
Not
like
the right role.
one of the kids though. When she talks, she's got that really high voice. And
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if it works.
Yeah,
for me.
did you say that she was supposed to be like first year?
Supposed to be first year teacher.
I didn't really get that.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't hear what
I didn't get that in the
said,
original.
but I didn't
either.
really get that. The original, I felt she was tough, hardened teacher who'd been around
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
while.
Yeah.
I think they actually say
You don't usually slap
maybe
kids
they
in the
didn't
head a
say
bunch
it
of
in the
times,
first
so
No.
she probably
This
got
one
around the
cut
trap.
down on the slapping.
Yeah, there's only one, I think. In the other one, because she slaps Chris in the first one, and
Yeah, she slaps Chris and Carrie in the
Carrie in
first
the
one.
shower. Yeah.
In the book, Sue also gets slapped by the sheriff. Everyone's getting slapped. But yeah,
No,
they cut out her slapping Chris in this one.
Yeah.
wasn't it?
I wasn't on board. I'd probably agree, perhaps slightly miscast because of her previous roles.
Yeah,
she
it's
is
one of those things, you just see her as-
primarily a comedy actress.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to sell some of that stuff where she's got to tell Chris to basically get stuffed and things
Yeah.
like that, it didn't quite take.
Yeah.
It's like
You needed someone with a little bit more clout.
the equivalence would be like in my head would be if you go into the principal's office and it's Jim Carrey sitting up there,
Or Will
and
Ferrell.
all I can think in my head is "Stop breaking the law, asshole," and things like that. I couldn't get that out of my head for her. I couldn't
Yeah.
get the past kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
You
was.
know, for instance, if you gave that part to, for let's say the sake of this, Julianne Moore takes that part instead, I buy that.
Yeah,
I buy
definitely,
her.
Definitely.
She's got the kind of balls, like if she stepped up to her and gave her a serve, you'd believe it.
Yeah.
There was some bits that perhaps didn't work. In saying that, that was the only other relationship that I think they got kind of okay.
Yeah.
There was a nice scene where she comes in to see her and finds out that she's going to the prom, and she says you look
That one was
beautiful and
good.
all that.
Yeah.
That stuff works, and I think as an actress she's fine.
She played tender quite well.
Yeah, but I'd agree that due to the comedic roles she's previously had, it doesn't sell as well as somebody who's a bit more.
It's hard to get it out of your mind.
Yeah. For me, I kept hearing Archer. Because she's the voice of that bloody the receptionist is always roofing everyone in up.
Singing country music.
I could think of oh shit.
Basically, everyone roots everyone in that.
Yeah.
So that's not very specific.
So-
but yeah, the country music singer and
Yeah, but I would agree that possibly miscast, but I thought her performance was okay under the circumstances.
I agree.
And she actually got a couple of sequences that worked.
The principal looking at the blood on her dress in the office.
with the shocked face, he's like, "Ugh,
I thought
that's
that
period
was,
blood."
That was pretty funny, but she just passed it off, and I thought that was kind of nice. This gross things happened, but she just ignored it because she was concentrating on the issue.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of
like a good teacher would.
My last dislike was I know that Carrie used her powers and she used them quite a bit in this one. And there's a sequence where she locks Margaret in the closet
And welds it.
and then she welds it shut, and then she looks down at the radio and turns it on. And all I could think of was Homer Simpson turning off the lights with his gun. You know, overusing it.
That's a reach.
I was just thinking, yeah, she's overusing it. She's overusing it here. It just felt like, I agree they were playing with it and working it, but it just seemed to happen all the fucking time.
Yeah. That was the roomiest closet. Frame closet I've ever seen.
I'd be like, send me in there. I'm sneaking a book in there.
On the
Maybe
TV.
chuck a pillow under me. Chuck a pillow under me shirt.
Put a hot tub in there.
Lighted. I was like, I can get away from this chick. And this is spacious.
Yeah.
I'm good in here.
The first one, that creepy Jesus and no space.
Oh, yeah, glowing eye Jesus.
Yeah, that's not cool.
This one I felt like it was.
Yeah, I believe have you two got you two still got more dislikes
Fuck
than the
yeah.
fire?
Like, mine are very specific. So there's a scene where it's Tommy, isn't it? It's a good one. Yeah. So where he's walking down the hallway at the school and it's
Slapping heads?
slapping everyone. No one does that fucking shit. No one's that popular where you walk down and it's like
Yeah.
I'll tell you who does that shit. Kenny Powers. Kenny Powers does that shit.
Thanks for making my case for me. Very much.
What drugs?
That scene felt fucking ridiculous. When at the end, when Carrie's in the street and the fucking other dickheads are there and the cops go past, they're waiting at the traffic lights and Carrie's right behind them. The cops drive past what's basically a 16-year-old girl covered in blood in the middle of the highway and don't notice it. Fucking how? Because she's right. There's no way they missed her.
That whole trip home is a dislike for me.
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
They've driven there. I'm considering that's from Belconnen to Civic or something in the distance.
Like yeah, and no one
a 10-kilometre thing.
Look, we also just caused a girl to go batshit crazy and kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
She's in the rear view. I'm going through the red light. I'm not stopping at the red light.
There's no car inside. Other than the cop car. The cop's gone. I'm going
through. Also, just quietly, this is one thing where the idea of having mobiles hurts the movie.
Yeah.
She gets a text. Sue gets a text from Chris saying,
your girl looks good. She won't for long.
Yeah. Ring Tommy and tell him something's up.
Yeah.
But no.
I'm going to have a shower.
Not ring anyone. Get redressed, get the car and drive down there.
And you know what? You wouldn't have even noticed. You've by that point, you've already got that shit out of your head. You wouldn't have even noticed if she didn't get a text.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been saying, where's the phone? You wouldn't have cared. Like, it just seems silly.
You could have got away with it by having her ring Tommy and his mobiles.
Yeah.
And he's
on silent. Yeah.
You could have ring she was there to check it out. And then she's like in the building at the same time.
Yeah.
That's it. You could.
But it was such a silly move because you've got mobiles, you're trying to hide them, but you've already used it as a bullying technique.
Yeah.
And then you don't play that and explain that.
Mobiles in like remakes of older movies are always a big problem.
Yes.
Because it solves a lot of issues with isolation and communication and stuff. Like it's great if you're out in the woods. Beep, beep, don't have signal, fucking throw your phone away, you're toast. But in things like this, there's just no way to explain it away. So it's rough. Jared might be able to shine some light on this one for me. When the house is collapsing at the end, why are there river pebbles falling out of the sky?
Well, the Bible, I think.
Yeah. I think it's the Bible. It's a callback to...
I was hoping there was some reason, because otherwise it's just inexplicable.
It's a callback to... They start some of the stuff in the book about when she's like 3. And she goes to the neighbour's house and the neighbour's in a bikini and whatever, and she's saying, what are those? I think she might mention that Mama calls them dirty pillows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I can see your dirty pillows.
Her mum goes stupid and she brings him down on the house there. So I think it's a bit of a callback to that, but yeah, I believe it's biblical
Bible
as well.
reference.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's fine. No, I was giving that one the benefit of the doubt.
I think in the Bible, like after Jesus died, there was an earthquake, and I think that's again no other house is falling apart.
Right. Okay. Fair. I'll give you that one. And then the last one, and this is a massive one. Like I just fucking nearly threw my fucking remote at the TV. At the end, when at the grave site, and it's got Carrie White's rotting in hell or whatever else, and then they whatever her name is, fucking Sue walks away, and the headstone cracks, and it's...
So what did you not like, the idea or the shithouse CGI?
Both. Simultaneously both. The idea is just shit.
And see, this is what we said, this is what we were saying last week. The original worked because that shit wasn't done.
Yeah.
And this time, they did it just because they had to do it.
You know what it felt like? It felt like the end of fucking I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like,
yeah, it did.
The same, just throw in just little, like, it's supposed to be some kind of, like, shock, sting ending, and it's not. It's just like, that's fucking stupid. This girl's fucking somewhere. She's been pulled out of rubble at her house, and they've gone through this whole thing to bother burying her.
Why was she at the house anyway? By the way,
home.
Why was she? Was she in Carrie's house?
Oh, Sue. Yeah, Sue got to the house.
Why?
I don't know.
She went to help her, I guess.
Yeah, she threw her out into the lawn.
And then she mentioned the whole pregnancy.
Yeah, it's a
girl. I saw an alternative ending.
Tommy, like a boss.
Yeah, there is an alternative ending.
And it's shit.
What's the
She's having her baby, and suddenly Carrie's hand comes out of her belly.
Oh, no.
That sounds like WWE.
That'd
when
make...
Vince McMahon was having to give birth to a hand.
That's even worse. That would make me fucking lose my mind, dead set.
Mae Young.
So
God, the writers of WWE really hit it out of the ballpark.
So basically, that one, Carrie comes back to like punish the girl that was trying to do something.
I'm not really sure. It was a callback to the hand coming out of the grave, I reckon.
And see, that undermines her being at the house and Carrie saying you don't even know it's a girl or whatever, and
get out of
basically
here.
throwing her out.
Pushing her to safety,
saving her.
That would have cracked me up. That would.
Fuck! I'm glad that didn't happen.
I thought you were going to say Vince McMahon gave birth to a hand. That's like, that's probably next on the agenda.
You never know with that.
But Any other dislikes there? Manny, you got a couple others?
No, I think that wraps it up. Hey, that's fair.
I actually had one that I don't think it's. I'm not going to put it in the dislikes. I just want to throw out and find out what you guys think of it. The hands when she's using her powers.
Oh yeah.
Because in the original, it's all just the big eyes.
Yeah.
The big eyes was weird.
It was weird,
The
but
hands is not that really that good.
the hands I didn't hate early when she was practicing in the room, but then in the prom scene, it looks like Harry Potter or something.
Yeah,
She's throwing her hands out.
I was thinking a bit more David
Directing
Copperfield.
Yeah, Copperfield, a bit of Copperfield.
It's very Copperfield. He's like,
Yeah. I think that whole scene, to be honest, is just like, this is a trick, and then I've got another trick that I can do, and then I've got another trick I can do, and I've got another trick I can do. Like, I didn't. Yeah.
No, I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
Because
The
I
hands?
just. No, I didn't like it. Jazz hands, I don't know jazz hands. To me, the idea of just the eyes and going, and moving them and then something would happen,
Yeah.
It was a bit more understated somewhat.
You don't need to be able to move your hands.
Your hands
Yeah.
aren't
That
needed.
shit.
Telekinesis to be power of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whatever science there is based on it, it's nothing to do with. It's
Well,
not.
you're a yellow, you baby spoons.
Yeah, but he is moving his hands because he's got a magnet in him.
He's moving his hands by getting the spoons to go. And then bringing out his own cutlery set onto the set.
No, I'm not joking. There is videos that show that he's switching a magnet between his hands when he's bending spoons.
Oh, really? Because remember,
That is magician
I think it was, what was the late night host in the 80s, 70s and 80s?
Jay Leno.
No, not Leno.
Ours?
Pre him. No, pre him in America.
Oh, Carson.
Carson.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Steve Vizard
No.
for a second. Vizard!
He got Geller on and then brought out his own shit
Yeah, and he
and
wouldn't
said,
do it.
he couldn't do it.
He sat there and
He's
he's like,
basically like,
I'm not feeling it.
You
I'm not
can't do
feeling
it, can
the
you?
connection. Yeah.
I've just lost my mojo.
yeah. And that ruined Geller. It destroyed his career. But
Yeah, so Carrie Geller did not look
yeah.
good in the final
I just
scene.
didn't like that shit. I just
Yeah.
think it felt weird.
It did look like it's funny that you said Copperfield because now when I look at the poses, they are kind of those stills on a magician's
Yeah.
pose where they got one hand up front and one next to their head. Kind
yeah,
of.
it's me distracting you from what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But when you were referencing the scene where she locks her mum in the cupboard before, like telekinesis, it's not pyrokinesis.
Yeah.
So how can she weld the lock?
Yeah.
I didn't get that bit.
Probably it's meant to be more supernatural and
Yeah, I know.
Maybe it was just she does a bit of everything.
But that's so
Geller's
define it.
got a bloke with a welder that just quickly sneaks in while he's waving his
Bit of an
hand
arse.
misdirection.
Yeah, look into my eyes. There you go.
Just keep him occupied for a couple of seconds, Yuri. I've got it.
Yeah, look, I just didn't like the hands. I just felt it was too theatrical.
Yeah.
it was over the top.
It felt, again, I couldn't see an explanation for it, so it felt like another thing to do differently just for the sake of it that didn't really pan out.
And she's choking the teacher. She's got the
Darth
hand up
Vader.
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it looked like Darth Vader. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Just I think they made a lot of poor choices. And
It's like us picking movies.
It's better than Ghoulies.
Yes.
I disagree.
Surely you jest.
We've been giving out 4s and 3.5s, and I think we're going alright.
Oh, we've stepped up from like Pieces and Avalanche Sharks. So
No,
I gave Pieces 5.
I think it might be time to do an anniversary edition
retrospective.
of Pieces.
fuck you, bloke.
Matty would love Pieces, guaranteed.
Oh, I love
You
it.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
You would, mate. You would love it.
That's all I got.
I think we covered, Harley.
Yeah, pretty much.
Carrie. So that was the remake to Carrie. If you want to get in touch with us, send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. Keep an eye on the Facebook for what we're going to cover in our next episode. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
It's good to have you back, mate.
Yeah, it's good.
Things are looking up.
Yeah, the train was derailing slowly, but we're back on track.
Don't worry, mate. I've assumed the wheel and jacked her up as fast as she can.
I'm going home to Google J.J. Abrams.
Do a bit of research next time.
I'm going to find that book he wrote called Lost. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I'm a bit lost.
Look up J.J. Abrams' history of the dunk contest. It's good.
But until next episode, thanks for listening, and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.com.au.